Hey everybody, I'm Ellen here at Etrailer.com, and we're taking a quick look at these wire cutters. They're also going to have an in-handle or a built-in stripper as well as wire cutter, so it's an all-around kind of multi-use wiring tool. So I'm going to try this out and make sure that this is going to be the right tool for you. It's a fairly comfortable handle. Could be a little bit bigger on those grips. It's a little bit narrow for my taste, but should work pretty well. It's got kind of a place for your forefinger and thumb to stop. Should be good for your left hand as well if you're a lefty. So let's try it out. I've got a couple of wires here to test this guy out and different sizes and things like that, so we'll see how it does. I've got a big old bag of random wires to play with. Alright, so let's try the cutter. I had some wire I was trying to work with earlier, so it seems like it cuts pretty well. And this is about 10 or 12 gauge wire here, so I'll try that. Seems like it strips pretty well. Got a little excess wire, so I'm going to cut that off. And then we've got some butt connectors here, so I'm going to try this in this yellow guy, and it looks like my wires are a little bit long. So, cut those off. And I'm just kind of playing around with this just to see how well it does. It does have a nice label to kind of help you remember what goes where. So this is going to be the crimping tool here down at the bottom. You've got a spot for insulated versus non-insulated. This one is insulated, of course. And then you've also got for coax cable. So different sizes. I'm going to try to use this one closest to the fulcrum, since I think that's the one that they want me to use here. So crimp that down. And this is a heat shrink butt connector. So did kind of punch through that material, which is something I didn't want to do. I'm going to cut this back just a little bit more. Seems like this wire size is probably a little bit big for this, or it's kind of on the edge of what it can really handle. Get that guy inside. Just want to make sure that you get those wires all the way in, of course. So I'm going to try it on this one kind of more towards the handle, away from the fulcrum, and see how that does. Looks like that might be for smaller wire. Yeah, that one really punched through. So not sure that that's, well, it crimped better though. It's holding better. Let's try it on a smaller size. I already got one side of this guy crimped, but I'm just going to make a loop back on itself. So this is probably 14 or 16 gauge wire. So far the stripper portion of this seems to be pretty comparable to any other that I've worked with. So it seems like that portion works pretty well. Now this is going to be a little tricky since I just made a loop on myself. Should be good there though. So that tool really wants to punch through, which I don't want to do, but it did make a good crimp. Let's try it on even smaller wire. So this is probably a 20 gauge, maybe 22. Try it on the smallest size here. I got that a little bit long. Cut it a little short. I'm gonna make this is probably not gonna work, but I'll just use it on a different butt connector here. Didn't really think about how short I was making that length. So I'm again gonna use this portion kind of again towards the handle to try to crimp this down. Got to use a bit more force, but I feel like didn't give me the crimp I wanted. I just don't like how this is punching through. I guess I don't have to press quite as hard to get the crimp. but then it didn't get all the way down. So that one seemed to do what I wanted it to do, because it didn't punch all the way through, but it got a good crimp. So for this smaller butt connector, it seemed to do really well. For these bigger guys, it punched through that material, which I didn't really want, because that's kind of the point of having an insulation on there. The heat shrink, it might kind of melt back into itself, but that's something that I just noticed there. I do like how it's pretty well labeled. I'll get a little closer so you can actually see that here. So they have it pretty well labeled to help you remember what goes where. So, you know, they suggest you only cut the copper. You've got a screw or a bolt cutter here, so you can thread in some bolts, cut off the length if you don't need it. I don't have any bolts to try that out with, but they do have them labeled to make it a little easier to know what's what. Like I said, the stripper portion seems pretty good. Cutter portion as well. Those seem like pretty sharp edges. You got the little pliers at the end, so if you need to grab, twist, or move anything around, you can do that there. I'll turn this around so you can actually read that. Got all the labels here, and this is that insulated versus non-insulated. So we just have the different shapes. The non-insulated is supposed to kind of crimp down more on those all metal or uninsulated butt connectors. With this guy, you can kind of see just sort of punched through or ripped through that material a little bit more than I'd like. I think it'll still work, you know, heat shrink it up, should be fine. And then you can always throw some Loom or electrical tape on there and be all right. So all in all, I think this tool will work pretty well. If you're going to be using it day in and day out, you know, if you're an electrician or doing a lot of electrical work, you might want to just go ahead and get something a little bit higher end. But I think this is kind of mid-tier as far as stripper crimpers go. It's pretty common to what we use here in the shop a lot of times, so I think it should work out pretty well. It's better than some others that I've used, but not as good so as other ones also. So again, kind of mid-tier as far as the quality of the tool. But I hope that this helped in deciding if this is the right tool for you. We do have a lot of other options available here at Etrailer.com, including all kinds of wiring stuff, including butt connectors, wire, and all kinds of good stuff to get your trailers fitted out, or RVs or boats or wherever you're putting this. So check those out if you're interested. I'm Ellen with Etrailer.com. Thanks for watching.